Terrified, bleeding, and weak, Jamie is lucky that his near brush with death only resulted in a laceration. Though even as he defends himself from the straggling pursuers, he wonders if his fate is already sealed, and that this horrid infection is taking root in his mind. Pushing past the harrowing thoughts of turning into one of them, Jamie pushes farther south to the dirt road he discovered earlier, hoping to follow it to some sort of shelter. Thankfully, his prayers are answered, but even this far out from the city, there are deadly clusters of the undead. Working towards a viable entry point, Jamie begins the agonizing process of fighting the infected with his injured hand. While it is slow going, his careful and methodical approach eventually allows him to cower in the expanse of the outdoors and feel the first moments of peace since fleeing his previous home. Looking over the kitchen of this building, his growling stomach is pleased to discover a handful of potatoes and a serving of ground beef. Before allowing himself the fruits of his labor, the paranoid survivor checks to see if the horde followed him inside, only then indulging in the first bit of warm food since this nightmare had begun. As the evening settles in and the silent building around Jamie provides him comfort, he wills his aching legs to a nearby bench and lays his head down to sleep away the throbbing pain. Waking up the next day, Jamie knows that despite his safety, he does not have enough supplies to stay put. Fortifying his nerves with the potatoes he found yesterday, he slips out the back door of the building and steers himself further into the wilderness. Striking out on a hiking trail, Jamie knows his chances of finding more food is slim, but every step away from town feels like a small victory against the undead. Wandering further and further into the morning fog, Jamie begins to stumble upon isolated infected, which leads him to believe that some sort of civilization may be near. Pushing forward until his legs ached with fatigue, Jamie comes upon a secluded highway in the middle of the vast woodlands. Spying a nearby car that could be his salvation, he fights through the relentless undead before seeing what he could scavenge. With the car being trashed and limited supplies being in the trunk, Jamie continues his adventure south and discovers 2 more cars and another cluster of infected. Slowly, painfully, carefully, Jamie begins to fight through the endless death of this world, dispatching one zombie after another as the day begins to pass by. Hours of mounting fear and anxiety continue as Jamie's still injured hand screams in agony with every thrust of his dulling blade. The hope of reaching the wreck becomes more and more distant as the sun begins its descent. Finally carving through the last of them, Jamie drags himself towards the vehicles and doesn't find any food for his efforts, though a map of the town he had fled is an essential piece of information going forward. Too hungry to hold off on it any longer, Jamie eats half of his preserved food to keep his energy up. Using this quickly waning burst of energy, he tries to push even farther south, but finds the highway too dense with infected to make any headway. After several more hours of fighting, Jamie's body begs for sleep, causing him to retreat back to the wrecks he had cleared. Though as he settles into the black station wagon, his own body betrays him as the panic of the outdoors dashes any attempt at rest. Hoping to grow so tired that he sleeps through the fear, Jamie holds up in the broken vehicle as the night drifts by, and the sun shines on another horrific day. Having eaten the last of his food, exhausted and running out of options, Jamie looks to his map in desperation before spotting an isolated cluster of homes off to the west. Though it's a long trek on an empty stomach, Jamie is left with very little options as he bids farewell to his temporary shelter and heads off into the woods once more. Step after groggy step, Jamie wonders if these homes would even be the salvation he needs, or if their offerings would be guarded by hordes he didn't have the energy to fight. Knowing that this desperate decision could easily be his last, he trudges ever onward with fragile hope.